Hi investors out there, it's Professor Steve again, delivering this third out of 4 videos, again subtitled Retirement Planning for Dummies. If you recall, our first 2 videos targeted where are you today, collecting your assets to see where you stand. Second video, try to determine where you want to be, what your assets, what you'd like your lifestyle to be upon retirement. Today what we want to look at is identify any gaps in that retirement. We're going to show you today how what I mean by that and kind of pursuing that, if you will. But again, the last video in our series is going to be how do we fill those gaps, which is probably the most important. But right now we're going to be looking at some math tools, specifically what's associated in Excel. We want to give you that those tools again to empower you, to give everybody those math tools to be able to evaluate where they stand, not only statically today, but also what happens 6 months from now if, let's say, you start retiring, saving more towards retirement, or you have, let's say, a higher return than you normally would, or have worse of a return than you estimated 6 months earlier. Again, at the end of each one of these videos, we try and give you a suggested path of what to do next as far as taking charge of your retirement planning, and again, looking for that type of feedback at the end. So the question is, where are you today? And video 3, what are those gaps, if you will. So again, switching over to our Excel file here, if you recall, we asked you in video 1 to identify your financial accounts, if you will. And I've got some listings here, and we're looking for those accounts that might have financial assets or some value there. Some of them are put in blue here to show that they're going to be significant in this particular example. So what we want to do is look at those accounts, and we're going to throw out the checking account because most people use that as a month-to-month budgetary deal, and there's going to be no excess funds. So we want to look at these other accounts that might be around, a savings account, maybe U.S. savings bonds, mutual funds, and the like. And what we want to do is now quantify today, put in place today what those values are. In a smaller scale, I've just shrunk it. You might be able to see that in our mutual fund account today we have something like $1,850. In our stock, it's valued about $950, and our IRA is $1,850. But the tools we want to use here is in Excel, we have the ability to look at the account today. For example, our savings account is at $3,500. If we do nothing to that account, in other words, don't take anything out and don't add anything to it, and project a 4% interest rate on the savings account, now that's very high compared to where we are today, but let's assume you do have 4%. And again, what we can do is give you that flexibility. And we want to look at the value in 15 years. That savings account will grow to $6,303. I have it set up where Excel has a link here, meaning that it has a formula. So if I change the interest rate from 4% to, let's say, 5%, you see that that amount changed here. So we're not too worried about what I put as your initial interest rate here on the savings account. Now I'll put it at 2%. But these are the tools we want to give you, and you make your assumption as far as how you want to grow this amount, these accounts, if you will. If you go back, let's look at, again, let's say we can get an average 7% return on our stock. Our stock is initially valued at $950. At a 7% return for 15 years, that'll grow to $2,600. If we get a 5% return, it'll only grow to, if we ought to get a 5% return, it'll grow to $1,900. If we can get a 10% growth rate, it'll grow to almost $4,000. So what we're trying to do here is develop what future values, and that's the technical term in finance, is we have present values today. These are the amounts we have today. This is what we think our growth rate will be. This is our term we're going to have. And there's a mathematical formula in here. If you look up in Excel, there it is. We do not have enough time to kind of go into these formulas right now, but again, in later courses, as we're trying to develop this program, we'll try to go into this to full extent, because this is the key we want to get in your hands, the ability for you to do that. But let's assume we have a dollar amount here that all of our money today that we've identified can grow to almost $28,000. We want to look at that $28,000 and say, what happens if we at retirement take all that money, put it into a savings account and earn 4%. In other words, that in retirement we're going to be very, very conservative and just put in a CD. Well, that'll throw off $1,100 in interest, or a little less than $100 a month on that pace. If we take that same amount and earn it, let's say in a mutual fund account that might throw 8%, and we only take off the interest, that'll throw off $183 a month. So we're looking at this monthly amount that it could kind of throw off. Again, that's the idea of this gap. If we take these funds now, and rather than just spending, let's say, the interest only, if we actually drain them, in other words, we take a little bit of the principal amount and a little bit of the interest as well, and we do that over, let's say, a 15-year period and earn 8%, we can actually pull out $264 a month here. So the whole idea on this particular scenario is to look at, okay, what are our inflows? And here we've got some examples. For example, the husband and wife couple might be able to get $1,500 retirement. Again, the model could be, if you don't believe that Social Security is going to be there when you retire, you can put a 0 there if you'd like. We have some older pension plans that are going to be collected, and then this is what I call the conversion process. In other words, you've got this lump sum that you grew your savings to. Now, what could we draw out on a monthly basis? Again, for what was the assumption, 15 years. So now we have a total inflow of $2,500. So the problem is that if we have a total outflow of $3,400, you see that our gap or our shortfall is we're short $886. So what we want to do is identify what we have today, what it could grow to in the future, what our future expenses are going to be if there's a shortfall in those between revenue and expenses, and then what we want to do is back into what do we need to save today to be able to fill this gap, and that's what we're going to be covering in our 4th video. Again, looking for some feedback from you. So you know, after this video, please keep your records and keep them updated. Measure your gaps. You could do the mathematics maybe if you saw how we did that, or we'll talk about that later. Update your retirement accounts and revise or modify any of your savings plans that we'll talk about later on. In video 4. Again, I'm looking to gauge interest in developing a website that will fully address all these topics rather than just talking about 4 or 5 minutes on the Excel formulas. We'll kind of go into depth. Again, looking for your feedback. So please provide your suggestions or comments to me, Professor Steve, at diy.retire@gmail.com. diy.retire@gmail.com. Again, our last video in this series is going to be how do we fill those gaps that once we identify that we do have a shortfall.